Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the really critical world of substation operation and maintenance. I want you to think of an electrical substation like a highly complex, living, breathing organism. And, just like any living body, it requires constant, rigorous care. Maintenance isn't just some boring compliance checklist. It is the absolute lifeblood of the system. I mean, without it, the grid simply dies.
Here is a quick roadmap for today. We're going to cover the anatomy of a substation, walk through the operations and maintenance schedules, look at how we maintain the vital core equipment, troubleshoot some common faults, and wrap it all up with safety protocols and test gear.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, Anatomy of a Substation.
To build on that living organism idea, the power transformer is essentially the heart of the system. Meanwhile, the protection relays and the SCADA system, well, they act as the brain and nervous system, right? Just constantly monitoring the telemetry. Your bus bars and cables are the arteries carrying the heavy load, and the circuit breakers, whether they're SF6, vacuum, or oil, those are the crucial muscles. They are always ready to instantly flex and break the circuit to protect the grid. The level of interconnectedness here is absolutely wild.
Moving right along to Section 2, Operations and Maintenance Schedules.
So, daily operations, it's all about active urgency. Step 1, you're literally opening your eyes and hunting for oil leaks, smoke, or any broken insulators. Step 2, you verify the equipment's status and those breaker positions. Step 3 is all about recording vital signs, meter readings for voltage, active power, and oil temperatures. Step 4 relies on SCADA monitoring to verify overall system loads and check the event logs. And Step 5 is just basic housekeeping, making sure drainage is clear and, importantly, that no local wildlife has managed to sneak into the switchyard.
Now, as we move beyond those daily checks, the preventative maintenance schedule really scales up in depth. Weekly tasks might just be cleaning panels or checking battery voltages. But as we get into the monthly and quarterly schedules, we start inspecting transformer oil levels and doing thermographic inspections. And by the half-yearly and annual marks, the work shifts into intensive diagnostics. We're talking lubricating breakers, running a dissolved gas analysis on the oil, and performing major insulation testing.
There's a really stark contrast in these procedures. On one hand, you've got your routine checks, the everyday detective work of monitoring oil leaks, checking temperatures, dealing with alarms. But on the other side, you have the advanced diagnostics, things like primary injection tests, tan delta tests, and DGA. This is deep, surgical-level testing executed annually just to make absolutely sure the internal, unseen components haven't invisibly degraded over time.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, Maintaining Vital Core Equipment. Let's see how all this builds.
First up, we have to maintain the heart, the power transformer. Visual inspections handle the oil levels, the Buchholz relay, and the silica gel breathers. But the testing is where we really catch those early failures. We run insulation resistance and breakdown voltage tests, but most critically, that dissolved gas analysis, or DGA, acts as our ultimate early warning system. It literally analyzes the gases dissolved in the oil to detect hidden internal arcing or thermal faults long before they can cause a catastrophic failure.
Next, we've got the circuit breakers. Again, these are the muscles of the substation. They might sit totally idle for months on end, but the second a fault strikes, they have to snap open in literal milliseconds. Maintenance here involves inspecting contact wear and SF6 pressure, sure, but the real proof is in the timing and contact resistance tests. That's what ensures the breaker is going to react instantly and cleanly to a trip command. Then we look at the brain and nervous system, the batteries and protection relays. Think about it. If the grid drops, that battery bank is the only thing keeping your protection logic alive. So float voltage and specific gravity checks are just vital. And for the relays, we verify the trip logic and run secondary injection tests to guarantee they're going to flawlessly coordinate a trip when the system goes critical.
And finally, the arteries and the grounding system. We inspect cable terminations for any moisture ingress and run VLF or partial discharge tests to catch insulation degrading early on. Equally crucial is the earthing system. Performing earth resistance and continuity tests guarantees that if a massive fault current suddenly surges through the station, it safely dissipates right into the ground. That prevents some very lethal step-and-touch voltages.
All right, Section 4, Troubleshooting Common Faults. Let's talk emergency response.
So, when preventive care just isn't enough, we rely on precise, analytical troubleshooting. Now, what's really interesting here is how we map exact symptoms to direct actions. If a transformer is overheating, the culprit is almost always an overload or a cooling failure, which means you have to reduce the load and inspect the fans.
Low insulation resistance usually points to moisture degradation, so you've got to dry the equipment. And an SF6 low-pressure alarm, that means you have an active gas leak that needs to be located, sealed, and refilled immediately to get your dielectric strength back.
Let's bring it all home with Section 5, Safety Protocols and Test Gear. This is the absolute priority. Considering the massive, literally lethal energies flowing through this equipment all around you, what do you think is the single most critical safety step a technician must take before starting any maintenance? How do they make sure they walk out alive?
Well, the answer is low tow, lockout, tagout. This is the process of completely isolating the equipment by opening the breakers and isolators and then physically locking them out. And I want to be clear, this is not merely some compliance checklist you tick off. In a substation, low tow is a literal matter of life and death. It ensures the total absence of voltage before hands ever touch the metal.
This procedure follows a strict, non-negotiable sequential order. 1. Obtain a work permit. 2. Isolate the equipment. 3. Apply your low tow. 4. Actively verify the absence of voltage. 5. Apply portable earths just in case of an accidental re-energization. And 6. Wear your appropriate PPE and finally begin work. Hands-on work only ever starts after absolute safety clearance is verified.
I mean, you obviously can't just stroll into a switchyard in street clothes, right? The standard operating procedure requires critical armor, a safety helmet, arc-rated clothing to protect against explosive arc flashes, insulated gloves, electrical safety shoes, a full face shield, and a super reliable voltage detector. This gear really is your final line of defense against arcs and live currents.
And to pull off all those advanced diagnostics we talked about earlier, technicians rely on specialized gear. A Megger is non-negotiable for testing insulation resistance. Circuit breaker analyzers capture those crucial millisecond opening and closing times. Relay test kits ensure the logic pathways are sound. And thermal imaging cameras, they reveal hotspots and degrading connections that your naked eye could never see. This equipment is the absolute foundation of condition-based monitoring. Ultimately, what it all boils down to, the core objectives of the SOP, are actually pretty simple. Ensure safe and reliable power supply, prevent equipment failures, and extend equipment life. Every visual inspection, every DGA test, every single application of a lockout tag serves that exact mandate. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. We've seen today how highly interconnected this whole anatomy is. So, if a single protection relay fails, if the nervous system misfires, what happens to the rest of the living grid when a massive fault strikes? Understanding the cascading real-world consequences of that scenario is exactly why mastering these operation and maintenance procedures is just so vitally important. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.